do it. You got this.
All right, bro. I can't do it. Here.
All right. Andrew, go ahead.
I'm supposed to open the pickle jar?
Yeah.
Oh, gee.
Uh-oh, Andrew. If you can't open it either.
Well, your hand greased the whole top of it.
My
While we're
hand.
doing olive jar.
If you're so strong, you should open it.
Yeah, I got to be able to grip it.
Okay, we'll grip it. Let's
It's
go.
literally slippery.
Uh-oh.
Grab me a paper towel so I can dry the top of it off. I can't grip the fucker.
Uh-oh.
Like, I got to have a way to grip it.
Jungle.
Andrew, I'm sorry. It's not.
My fingers slip
What a
right off the
backfire.
lid. Come on, you'll see for yourself. You can't get your fucking hand on it. Try it. Nah, you fucker. That was bullshit. Bullshit.
Oh, shit.
Wait, put it on the table. Put it on the table.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I got myself.
Oh, no. There we go. Okay.
Just gotta be able to
wow,
grip
you know,
the fucking thing.
you undersold yourself a little bit.
A lot of you have sent this to me, so might as well check it out. And the quality is really bad. That's just the way the video is. Sorry.
It's not the case.
By the way, this is the same guy who isn't sure if evolution exists. Like,
What does that?
I'm
what
not
does
sure
that
if
do?
I'm not sure if human beings walked with dinosaurs.
Why? I don't understand. How's that an argument? It's just an argument from incredulity.
So I don't this is where the video begins. So I don't know what they were talking about to lead them to that. And I don't know. It doesn't surprise me at all that that's what Wilson thinks. But I don't know how we're starting this up.
From incredulity, you're just like, well, because I think that he questions evolution, which by the way, evolution
remarkably biased.
Towards what? Towards
Whatever
evidential.
you want
Towards
to be
evidential.
Yeah. Toward, I guess you start with the people that think evolution is false. I've never met a single one of them that isn't operating from a conclusion despite the evidence. That is just simply always what it is. And the only thing they have to lean back on are the typical evangelical creationists just say, oh, well, where do you get your truth from? Or, oh, you're lost in your sinful ways and you hate God and Jesus. Debate Lord people like Andrew, they do they also do the, oh, well, where do you get they just ask you a bunch of philosophical or metaphysical questions surrounding science or empiricism or whatever to get you to say, to try to get you to say, I'm not sure, as if that gives their belief equal credence.
Interpretation?
You want, it's clear that you have a bias in confirming the creation myth. So when I ask you, do you think humans walked with dinosaurs? Do you think we evolved from apes? Well, I don't know. I don't think there's enough evidence to really rule out whether or not humans walked with dinosaurs.
What's wrong with that? That's actually the scientific purview.
No.
So he didn't say consensus, but the scientific purview what does that even mean? So he's doing the whole thing where science is always open to reinterpretation. Therefore, I am somehow justified in thinking that man walking with dinosaurs is a claim that I can make in equal standing with your claim that we didn't, which is just so incredibly stupid. And again, you would only make a claim like that out of desperation because you don't have any of the facts on your side.
No, it's not.
It is.
Why don't you find an archaeologist and maybe debate that topic?
Hang on.
I'd love to
They
see
work. Well, here's what would happen, and I would just say, this is the best theory that you guys have, so you treat it as scientific fact because it is for the preponderance of evidence you do have, you're going to treat it as a fact until a new theory comes along. But that doesn't actually make it true, correct? And he'll say, that's correct. Doesn't actually make it true. We will act as though it is true.
But what you can do is you can weigh competing ideas. Yours weighs nothing and is stupid. Ours weighs the same as whatever the totality of the evidence is. Because every single physical piece of evidence we have regarding humans and dinosaurs unequivocally says that not only did we not coexist, but the length of time in which we did not coexist is so incredibly vast.
Until a new theory replaces this one, because that's how science works. Unlike you, I know the scientific process. Unlike you, I know how to interpret data. Unlike you, I understand how the preponderance of evidence works.
Andrew, if anything you just said was true, then you would have a 0 confidence interval saying that it's even open to discussion as to whether or not humans and dinosaurs coexisted. And the most important thing about all of this isn't how Andrew Wilson thinks. Nobody actually thinks this way, because I can take everything he's saying and just apply it to flat earthers. We all saw that with the Blitz and Indio video from the other day. Yeah, so you have a model and it makes you feel good. All those are observations. That doesn't prove anything. It is identical. Now, maybe Wilson would say, yeah, the flat earthers are right. They have a point. But Andrew Wilson thinks it's a fact that the earth is a globe and that the earth orbits the sun. Now, does Wilson also think that in principle it could be proven otherwise, that in principle we could prove that the earth actually is flat? It's just that the data doesn't support that? Sure. And we use the word fact in a sort of colloquial sense where it's different from a proof in the mathematical sense, but that's just how we use language. So if you pressed him on it, maybe he would backtrack a little bit. But it's still hypocritical. They're all hypocrites because they don't do this consistently. They never do. The creationists think the flat earthers are stupid, even though their arguments and their tactics are identical.
Me saying I'm unsure is the most fucking scientific thing I can say. You saying you are sure is the most unscientific thing.
Do you think it's a reasonable stance to say we have to uncover every single fossil on Earth through every single sedimentary layer to absolutely 100% confirm human beings have never walked with dinosaurs, to confirm that they have not, in fact?
So what Gaines is saying here, that's absolutely fine. I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have just asked, like, again, sort of repeating myself, but it's honest of me to say that I don't know with 100% certainty. Ask for the confidence interval and then demand the logic or the empirics that got you to say that they're on equal footing, or the stance that Wilson's stance, which is completely against all of mainstream scientific consensus and academia surrounding this issue. Or tell me, like, do you think you're equal, or do you think yours rises above the level of rigor and work and all that in the scientific community? Explain how you got there, because this or this, neither one of them are even remotely acceptable based on the principles of science that you claim to know all about. I know how to interpret the data. No, you couldn't possibly have your stance if that were true. Okay,
so then what's your position? Like, what evidence would you need to confirm that humans have not walked with dinosaurs?
Well, no. So when you're talking about this...
And here we have, nice pivot to meta, you beautiful slow boy. I haven't watched this, so I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I predict that, also just like the flat earther, it's going to do anything but actually talk about the data. This is why I love this question. And Gaines is essentially asking the question that I always go to. If blank was true, what would the evidence look like? They are allergic to that because they know they have nothing.
I'm not offering a threshold for what would be a convincing threshold that human beings walked or didn't walk with dinosaurs. All I'm saying is that the evidence is inconclusive thus far to prove that they did.
So we went from the whole debate bro tactic of arguing about what words mean to just flat out saying the evidence is inconclusive. The evidence is absolutely, what I would actually say is exclusive. Not a single dinosaur remain, here I'll grab my Diplodocus, not a single dinosaur remain has been found anywhere near within any stratigraphical layer of any Cenozoic creature. None whatsoever. It's absolutely never happened, and we have millions upon millions of both of them. So not only chronologically does the data absolutely appear to have these creatures separated, that was known in the 1800s. Not only that, but then when we figured out how to date rocks, they're separated by vast periods of time. I cover the fossil record and all the attempts that creationists use to try to co-opt the fossil record in science in order to claim that, like, oh yeah, the fossils, it's all from Noah's flood, and Noah's flood is totally consistent with the fossil record. Complete and utter bullshit. There's lots of examples like that in the book. I'm happy to announce that I can now offer signed copies of both of my books. This is because I've reopened my merch store where you can get your very own Spanky, t-shirt, and more. If you don't know, Rational Answers to Stupid Questions is a collection of responses to about 100 of the most common anti-scientific tropes. The book is meticulously detailed, it's been fact-checked by real scientists, and it's written in a clear and easy to understand way. Evolution, the Big Bang, creationism, flat Earth, all of that plus more is in there. Facts That Aren't True is a collection of over 150 commonly held beliefs that are not true. Each claim has a story behind it. You'll learn the history behind the claim, the science that disproves it, or partially supports it in some cases, and lots of side stories and tangents. Categories include the human body, history, religion, animals, nature, language, and a hodgepodge of miscellaneous facts that aren't true. So if you want to be equipped to handle the misinformation that you see me tackling here every day, get a copy of one or both of those books for yourself. Thank you.
Regardless of whatever my threshold would or would not be, or anybody else's, like, how do you standardize that threshold anyway? It would just have to be evidence which is convincing to the point where it would convince most people this was the case. At this point, we're not there. If we were, it would be a scientific fact and not a theory.
How does somebody that does what, and I get that this is not a topic that Wilson covers. I've never seen him talk about it. But how does somebody that debates for a living how do you give the dumbest versions of the dumbest arguments that evolution deniers give? How do you actually stoop to that level? We're reaching levels of absolute hackery and dipshittedness that shouldn't really be possible. Scientific theories don't become scientific facts. Scientific theories don't become scientific law. And scientific theory doesn't mean, well, methinks blank. Scientific theories, except in some cases with like theoretical physics, like string theory, for example, there is a weird class where some of the nomenclature is shared. But the other scientific theories, like gravity, general relativity, evolution, plate tectonics, the germ theory of disease, they are, in a sense, historical. They began as perhaps disparately connected or similar hypotheses, many of them, which ran through the trial of the scientific process. The ones that have been confirmed countless times start to form a body of knowledge, and that body of knowledge starts to narrow down and point in some sort of direction, which is the explanation that we have. A scientific theory is an explanation about the natural world predicated on enormous amounts of confirmed lines of evidence, experiment, observations, etc. I don't know what anybody means when they say scientific fact. I assume maybe they mean scientific law. Scientific laws are just observations. Entropy increases in a closed system. It's just a flat-out observation. There is no explanation behind it. The Hubble-Lemaitre law, it's just an observation. There's no explanation behind it. It is actually the theories that explain why scientific facts or scientific laws are the way they are.
Right. Okay. So it's a complete coincidence that as you go down through the sedimentary layers, you see the disappearance of mammals, period. And then you start seeing dinosaurs. And then if you go deeper down, you see less and less complex organisms. But you're telling me
I have to nitpick. There are Mesozoic mammals. Mammals and dinosaurs coexisted, but there are really, really not very many of them. I mean, there probably were a lot of them, but there were by far more species of dinosaurs. More so what I mean is we don't know of a huge number of them, but we definitely did coexist.
humans walked with dinosaurs.
I didn't say that.
It's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, nobody would dispute it's a possibility.
In principle, you can ask the question. We know with the same amount of certainty that the Earth is a globe that we did not coexist with dinosaurs.
Yes,
Ooh.
there are many people that would dispute it's possible.
No,
Ask any archaeologists.
they would just say that the evidence is pointing to the fact right now that they didn't. They would not say that it's
Okay,
an impossibility. That's insanity.
Look, if
that's not how
you're
any of this works,
epistemic-
bro.
Look, if you're
No, Andrew, what you're saying is not how it works. This reminds me of one time I did this giant debate in Discord with a whole bunch of idiots, and there's this really nasally, whiny, twerpy pre-sup kid. I said to him, so what you believe is completely unfalsifiable, that's convenient. And he said, that's the nature of the truth, brow. Wilson seems to be doing something similar here. Just because something is true doesn't mean that it isn't falsifiable. It's true that I have 10 fingers. It's possible that I don't, and it's theoretically disprovable that I have 10 fingers. But the truth is, I do have 10 fingers. Just because an idea or something in evidence or some piece of scientific knowledge can't, in principle, be falsified, doesn't mean that it doesn't have a truth value that asymptotically rises to 100.
epistemic standards demand that you can't confirm humans have not walked with dinosaurs, there's clearly nothing I can show you.
Okay, first
that
of all,
that would convince you.
My
that
epistemic
That was actually a really good clapback.
standards
answer risk.
for the theory of knowledge don't say that. One, I'm explaining just the scientific method and how science.
At no point have you said anything about the scientific method.
Science processes evidence when it makes claims. So what scientists are saying is, right now, here's what evidence shows us. So we're going to postulate a theory based on that evidence and act as though that theory is true.
No, the idea about our ideas about deep time and species coexistence goes back to the early 1800s. It's run through the scientific steps for the last 200 years, and it's been as confirmed as a scientific idea ever can be. Wilson is he's acting like the theory of evolution is an idea that came about yesterday, and we're interpreting the evidence in light of the theory. No, the evidence is what built the theory. And the other important point about this is that historical record of the theory of evolution and paleontology and all that. The historical record of it being built is actually extremely crucial here, because that also undermines all these idiotic talking points. Our ideas about deep time and evolution and have species coexisted in the age of the Earth, all of those ideas could absolutely have been disproven. Genetics could have disproven the theory of evolution. Instead, it confirmed everything, all of the ideas surrounding it that were already built into the theory. Paleontology, our ideas about all the names of all the eras in Earth's history, the Carboniferous, the Devonian, the Cambrian and Precambrian, the Mesozoic, the Jurassic, the Triassic, the Quaternary, whatever. all of those names were given in the 1800s. And they said, yes, chronologically, these are the different eras, and these represent unique periods in Earth's history and unique flora and fauna. That could have absolutely been disproven. When we learned how to date rock layers, it could, if they all came out to be the same age, or if the numbers were just always inconsistent, then it would have absolutely destroyed that idea, which you really cannot separate deep time and geology and stratigraphy from evolution. You really can't, because they both tell the same story. It would have absolutely disproven it. Instead, it confirmed it in exactly all the ways that all of our evidence about organisms has confirmed evolution.
Unless more compelling evidence comes later, and then we will modify the theory from there. But they're not saying that this is a fact, and I'm not saying it's not a fact. You could be right. I'm just saying that you can't assert that you're right, because that would not be a truth claim. Like, you can't say this.
Then no amount of evidence ever for anything, nothing in the real world, no kind of empirical claim can ever be said to be a true claim, because science is not fundamentally different from forensics or just your everyday experience with your own eyeballs going through the world. It just flat out isn't. But nobody except the most absolute edgelord, unbearable, deny everything flat earther says that. And people that need to deny a very specific claim. They don't apply this to anything else in their lives ever, except for whatever claims threaten their personal identity. I guess for whatever reason, Wilson probably thinks, well, if man and dino didn't walk side by side, then Christianity's probably false. And I can't believe that.
Is true, because it's not. That would be not correct. That would be unscientific.
Okay. Andrew, we have a very robust fossil record. And we know when mammals first appear in the fossil record. It is far before human beings. It has been confirmed with science.
No,
humans have not walked with dinosaurs.
Bro,
I can assure you.
It has not been confirmed. That would be inaccurate, wrong language.
Okay, well, how about we make $1 million bet? If hopefully Brian Johnson develops, some sort of, infinity lifelong serum, so we'll never die. Mm-hmm. And hopefully in 1,000 years, when we have the technology to scan Earth and, go through all the sedimentary layers and find all the fossils, how about we have a bet right now, in 1,000 years from now?
Yeah, I don't know. Gaines is saying something to the effect of, once we have all of the knowledge, then we'll be able to make a conclusion. But that's not actually what Wilson is. He's claiming that that's not how it works either. Because even if you had all the evidence, you still have to interpret it, and so you don't get to say that one idea is true or false.
When we're cyborgs or something, if they find humans have never walked with dinosaurs, you owe me $1 million. You want to take that bet?
Sure, I'll bet you $1 million 1,000 years in the future when we have scanning technology that we'll be able to make much better scientific assertions about these things and the evidences and the claims that we're making. What I'm saying right now is that.
Well, maybe what I just said was kind of wrong. Wilson just really doesn't know jack shit about paleontology and evolution. And he did say earlier that we just don't have that much evidence. I mean, he's just, maybe I broke my own rule of thumb, which is to try to assign incompetence before malice.
Let's account for inflation. Let's account for inflation.
We have an incomplete, right now we have an incomplete fossil record.
What would make it complete? It's like that one guy. Prove that the Big Bang is a complete theory. Go. It's not, but none of them are. The quantum mechanics and gravity are not harmonized. Therefore, they're not complete. Do you think that neither of those is true? No. Okay, well then your question about the Big Bang is ill-founded. No, prove that it's complete.
That is the truth. And the truth of the matter is that it's going to take a lot more digging in the ground before we can replace the current theory with new ones. And by the way, evolutionary theory is always changing. Everything from microevolution to DNA sequencing. This is all new technology, by the way. This is not, these things are, it's all cutting edge right now. We don't actually know these things. When you say,
what are you talking about? The number of species whose genomes we've sequenced and created phylogenetic trees and cladograms based on that, and how it matches up perfectly with the evolutionary diagrams that were based just off of anatomy in the fossil record. It's yeah, he doesn't know shit.
There's
when you say
no such thing as microevolution.
When you say, yeah, well, there you go, right? But here's the thing. There is theory behind microevolution.
I
don't know why Gaines said that.
There is no microevolution. It's just evolution.
Okay. But you...
I mean, typically we say there's no such thing as macroevolution, but whatever.
Agree with me that there's theories behind microevolution, right?
No, that's just creationist nonsense. Creationists developed that term.
Okay, so what happens when the mindset changes of a gradual change to the entirety of a species over an elongated period of time? That was the original set value of Darwinian evolution.
Still is.
But evolutionists do postulate that there are species in which rapid changes happen in a very short period of time.
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
Yes, that's both evolution.
So when I say microevolution, I'm referring to that form of the process, which is a recent...
There's no
stop,
difference
stop,
in the
bro.
process.
That's
Speed
but
of
the theory is a recent development. That was not original Darwinian theory. Okay,
wait, what?
Which is a recent...
There's no
stop,
difference
stop,
in the
bro.
process.
That's
Speed
but
of
the
the
theory
adaptation.
is a recent development. That was not original Darwinian
not.
theory. Okay.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Microevolution is a recent thing. And the rapid evolution of species, that's not really much of a thing either. We point to some examples of species or populations that speciate in kind of sort of right before our eyes. There have been some extremely odd and very rare examples of hybridization, but most of these examples involve animals like insects. And so even though you may see in a period of a couple of years, insects speciate or a population of insects speciate, it's still gradual, because what you'd want to do is count the generations. In a couple of years, insects, which also produce extremely high numbers of offspring, they also have short gestation periods. We tend to mean gradual in terms of time, and that's basically the way I use the term all the time. But I think we should probably be more precise and sometimes specify that, well, gradual also refers to the number of changes per generation.
Okay, so then show me when the
Well,
theory...
by the way,
show me.
when you say rapid evolution, like a lot of people refer to the Cambrian explosion as rapid evolution. That's a period of like billions of years.
It's tens of millions of years. It's not billions of years.
Yeah, but no. They're saying that species can, within some generations, and like you can point to insects where this could happen, for instance, perhaps.
Sure.
Wow, I guess I'm a prophet. Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Or things like this, where it's not an elongated process where it should be. So like if an insect lived, let's say, I don't know.
It's changes per generation. If an organism, like so many people that, I'm not accusing Wilson of anything in particular here, but people argue that if evolution is true, then we must see species give birth or give rise to new species. No, that's Pokemon. That would count against evolution. If an organism gave birth to another organism, that was a different species than itself and couldn't reproduce with its own mother, for example, evolution doesn't say that that kind of thing happens. Okay. And even so, I already went over the example of if you have very, very short generations and you're reproducing a lot of offspring per generation, then in our lifetimes, you can see rapid evolution, but it's still gradualistic on the level of the generation.
Like 2 minutes, let's just say. You'd be able to get through tons and tons and tons of generations long before you would with elongated evolution.
So
hang
simpler
on.
life forms may be able to make faster adaptations.
Yeah,
especially
or
if they
evolve
have a
or
short
evolve
life.
much faster. Original Darwinian evolution did not postulate this. Evolution has advanced in the
That is completely false. All of it was like 5 basic ideas that Darwin had. And even though he didn't know anything about how inheritance works, and a lot of more complex things like niche partitioning and epigenetics and all this other stuff we've learned, despite the fact that he didn't know any of those, all of his 5 things are still true. There exists in populations a struggle for existence. The struggle for existence necessitates competition between species and within species. Because of this, organisms have to produce vastly more species than can possibly survive to reproductive maturity. There exists variation within a population. That variation is heritable. Those last 2 things probably should have gone first. But those core 5 ideas are absolutely still true. And yeah, we do talk about neo-Darwinian evolution and the modern synthesis, which just brings in things that Darwin didn't know in his time, but his 5 ideas are still 100% true.
theory has advanced. What I'm saying to you, right? And perhaps I can grant you this, that when I use microevolution, I'm using it incorrectly. That could be the case. I'm just saying to you that the theories of evolution have advanced, and they no longer hold to the same theories they held to. They just don't. So
we've added things, but to say that that evolutionary biologists don't hold to things they used to hold to, I mean, there are some small ideas which were proposed and then thrown out. Darwin's gemmucles, for example, phylogeny or ontology recapitulates phylogeny. That was thrown out immediately, but otherwise, no.
for you to dispute that's absurd, right? I can literally give you a timeline of evolutionary theories.
What aspect of evolutionary theory has been debunked?
Here, let's go through a timeline of evolution theory. It's not debunked. It's not that they're debunking the previous thing. They're saying we have new evidence which modifies the things that we previously believed about this theory.
Well, I know there's epigenetic changes, there's sexual preference, things like that are being added to the theory to explain, evolutionary changes, but the theory itself hasn't really changed. Like the mechanism in which,
it's been refined, it's higher resolution, but yeah, the idea, I mean, you can look at the theory from different resolutions, I guess. And Darwin's maybe I should include this later. Darwin's general conclusion was, given those 5 things, I propose that species change over time and we have enough deep time so as that populations become completely different species over time. Or in other words, the organisms of today are the descendants of different organisms from the past. Or also, in other words, all life on the planet is related to a common ancestor. Absolutely none of those things have been overturned.
Evolution through natural selection, it's being added to. Natural selection isn't the only mechanism.
Oh, so the theory changed?
Well, the theory didn't fundamentally change.
Yeah, was literally
added to the theory.
Yes, that's what I just said. Literally,
Okay.
I just said they took previous theory.
No, Andrew, you kind of backtracked like a lot.
Understood you.
They take previous theories, they add to them. When they add to them, they come up with a new theory. That's how it works.
Okay, well,
No. Not really. I mean, if you want to say that the modern synthesis is not the same theory as Darwinian evolution, that's a semantical argument. It's one that I would completely reject because it's still Darwinian. His same 5 ideas still apply, and the implication is still the implications are stitle identical.
Well, I misunderstood you.
And based on
so-
previous evidence in all science works this way. It has to necessarily, because it's designed to falsify itself if necessary, to falsify previous conclusions in order to adapt to new conclusions, in order to make new theories. Like, it all works this way.
I wouldn't really agree with that. Science is not built to be falsified. It's just that philosophically and practically and pragmatically and honestly, a scientific idea is one that is falsifiable in principle. But for the third time, I still wouldn't at all say that our previous theory of evolution was falsified. Really wouldn't say that. We've added some things and some ideas that some people had were thrown out. But to say that it's been... no. Well, at that point, the discussion switches to a discussion on heart disease. Not interested in that. Thanks for watching, and you will see me tomorrow.